The Looking Glass by Katy Haye. The looking glass gave me the creeps from my very first day at work in the Peterson house. It was old, large and ornate, a bright oval that commanded the wall opposite the front door, so that your first view on entering the house was of yourself. It wasn't my first view of myself. Oh no, I was a servant, so I entered the house through the kitchen door at the back. I must have seen it when I was shown around the rooms by the housekeeper, but I was concentrating so hard on the duties she was assigning me, I didn't properly see it. I first noticed it when I finished dusting and sweeping the front parlour and moved into the hallway to clean. I needed to clean the looking glass, and my first step, as always, was to remove it from the wall so I could dust behind. No use polishing and then getting my fingerprints on the glass. Stepping close, I gripped the edges of the frame firmly and lifted. It refused to budge. I tried a second time, then released the glass and stepped back, frowning. Perhaps it had been screwed to the wall, although I'd never come across such a thing before. I moved on to polish the glass, which I did with a spray of sharp-smelling vinegar and a soft cloth. Because I was focusing on my work, I didn't really notice my reflection. There was just a dark shape moving, as I did. I stood back and scanned the surface for smears. Finding none, I gave a nod and moved on to clean the rear parlour. When I'd finished cleaning downstairs, I reported to the housekeeper, as I'd been instructed. I said that everything had been cleaned to the best of my ability, but I hadn't been able to remove the looking glass to clean behind it. The housekeeper gave a nod of approval, rising to her feet even as I completed my sentence. "Good work. We should prefer you didn't lift anything too heavy. If it falls, it could be damaged. I'll help you." I stepped out of the way as she swept from the room. The explanation that it wasn't the weight that troubled me, but the fact the glass wouldn't move seemed absurd. She knew the house better than I did, after all. And so it proved. I followed her to the hallway, where she took up a post on one side of the looking glass, directing me to the other. "We lift on 3, she directed briskly. 1, 2, 3. The looking glass came away as though it had heard her command. Up an inch or so, out, and set down safely. A chain was linked firmly on the back. No nails or screws in sight. I stared in consternation and needed the housekeeper's reminder, "Dust the back, girl. I haven't all day." Pushed out of my stupor, I whisked a duster out of my pocket and dusted the wall and the back of the looking glass. Together we lifted it back onto its hook. The housekeeper took a step back, assessing its straightness. "You'll need to clean the front. Always clean the back before you polish the front. We've left finger marks." "Yes, ma'am, I see that." While I polished the glass for a second time, she inspected my work in the front and rear parlours, leaving me alone. With my arm stretched across the glass to polish out all the smears, that's when I saw it. My reflection seemed to pause, not following my movements perfectly. Startled, my cloth stopped in its tracks. I looked at the reflection rather than the glass. My reflection stared back at me. Then it winked. I gasped in surprise, and the illusion vanished. The reflection was perfectly my own startled face. A shiver fled down my spine and I dismissed the feeling. It must have been a trick of the light. The housekeeper's footsteps warned me, so I was polishing the glass, not staring at my own reflection, when she rejoined me. "You've done good work, and quickly too. Keep it up and you'll soon be a valued member of staff. Get yourself a cup of water from the kitchen, then start on the bedrooms." "Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am." My work kept me busy enough that I forgot about the looking glass and the strange trick it had played on my eyes. But the next day I was aware of my heart starting to thump as I straightened from my work in the front parlour and headed towards the hallway. Once more the looking glass refused to move until I enlisted the housekeeper. Today, once the housekeeper had returned to her office and I was busy polishing, my reflection blew a kiss at me. Another shiver ran down my spine. I ignored it firmly. Reflections did not do such things. Besides which, the idea that I would blow a kiss at anyone, absurd. I wasn't such a flim-flam sort of a woman. However, my new job was good. The housekeeper was fair, the cook was talented and friendly, and the house was always warm. If the looking glass was the oddity I needed to endure for the sake of employment, then endure it I would. I did my work as the days passed. Spring rains fell, followed by sunshine and brisk winds as the season turned. The looking glass ceased to be alarming, and I even found myself looking forward to the moment when I'd catch my reflection doing something most unlike me. That was until she showed me her dress. For several days she'd been gesturing, I hadn't understood at first, but that day I realised she meant me to step back and look at her in full. I did so and received the shock of my life. She was wearing a dress I'd seen the mistress wearing 2 days previously to attend a ball. A concoction of pale green silk and lace. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. My reflection grinned happily at me as she turned this way and that, showing off like a model in a modiste shop. I almost ran into the rear parlour to get away. The idea that I would wear the mistress's dress, that I would even dare to try it on. I'd be dismissed immediately. It was a wicked suggestion. I felt almost as guilty as if I'd actually done so, as though it were my action, not the looking-glass's strange twist of the truth. All my misgivings returned in a flood. Was the looking-glass the work of the devil, tempting me to do wrong? For the next week I found myself glancing aside at the mistress's wardrobe when I cleaned her room. The green dress was sure to be hanging in there, cleaned and cared for by her lady's maid. A voice in my head said that I should take a look, but I didn't dare do even that. The looking-glass perhaps understood it had pushed me too far. For a month or more I determinedly kept my eyes on my work and didn't even glance at my reflection. When I did dare to look back, the only movements she made, aside from reflecting my own, were a gentle smile or a nod. More time passed. Cook retired and a younger woman took the job. Her pies were to die for, but heaven forfend you cluttered up her kitchen when you'd no right to be there. Hot summer gave way to autumn rains. More dresses were delivered for the mistress, but this time they were made of damask and edged with fur to keep out the cold. I kept a wary eye on my reflection, but if she played dress-up, she did it when I wasn't watching. Christmastide arrived. The house was filled with greenery and ribbons and fat candles. They all made my work harder, but it was work I was glad to do. The housekeeper gave me the job of polishing the silver ornaments before they were hung on the tree, a position of great trust that made me preen a little. My reflection burst out laughing when I ruefully showed her my scoured fingertips. She gestured me towards her as though she would give me a hug. That was impossible, but I smiled back and blew her a kiss, remembering the time I'd been appalled when she'd done so to me. Perhaps we were more alike than I thought. Christmas Eve rolled around, and we assembled in the servants' parlour in our Sunday best. The mistress walked in on a cloud of sweet perfume, her red dress perhaps even more beautiful than the green one of summer. She thanked us for our hard work and handed out Christmas gifts. The cook and the housekeeper both got fat purses of money. I had anticipated perhaps a silver crown. It's what I'd received at Christmas in my last job. My jaw dropped when instead the mistress gave me a large, soft, muslin-wrapped parcel that I opened to reveal the green silk dress. "Madam!" My mouth worked, but I couldn't get the words out. I glanced side to side. The housekeeper was smiling at me. Cook was weighing up her purse obliviously. "You can't mean for me to have this. It's too beautiful." The mistress laughed as though pleased by my response. "I'm very happy with your work. You'll be able to sell it for a good price. There's a sad tear, but it's at the back. You may be able to mend it." Thank you so much." As soon as the mistress left, I carried the dress up to my room, setting it reverently across the bed. It looked so fine and beautiful against the rough blankets. I knew it had been given to me to sell on, but I also knew I wouldn't sell it immediately. I could barely stop touching it, stroking the fine silk and seeing how the colour changed when the fabric moved. The memory of seeing my reflection wearing this dress returned full force. Had she somehow shown me my future? I couldn't wear the dress for real. I wasn't a fine lady. I had no glittering balls to attend. But I knew exactly what I was going to do. Tonight, while Christmas made everything special. With a final stroke of the silk, I returned downstairs to the last of my pre-Christmas duties with a light heart. The clock struck 1 as I descended the stairs in darkness. It was Christmas morning, and the house was still, as though holding its breath. It wasn't silent, though. Along with the ticking of the grandfather clock, my silk skirts rustled as I trod slowly down the stairs. I hadn't realised how close in size to the mistress I was, but the dress might have been made for me. There was no wrinkle in the bodice. The waist fit perfectly, while the skirts flared and skimmed the ground around my bare feet. I looked down at my pale arms, picturing jewelled bracelets sparkling at my wrist. Instead of work-roughened hands, my fingers would be smooth and pale and glittering with gem-laden rings. It was Christmas. I was allowed a little make-believe. The hallway was dark, yet when I turned to face my reflection, I could see her perfectly, as though the day's light was streaming in through the window above the door behind me. My reflection, of course, was wearing the green dress. She clapped her hands, beaming in pleasure to see me in my finery. I dipped a clumsy curtsy as though we were meeting at a ball. She laughed, the gesture clear, although silenced by the glass. Then she gestured again, waving me close. I stepped up to the looking-glass. She took a step back so I could still see her clearly. She gestured again, then held out her hand as though I could reach through the glass and take it. Possibilities swirled through my mind, and my heart beat hard. Me wearing the dress had come true. The looking-glass was somehow magical. Who was to say what else could be possible, today of all days? I picked up my skirts and lifted my foot, setting my toes on the edge of the rounded frame. I was somehow unsurprised when they didn't meet cold, hard glass, but pressed through the surface as though it were water. My reflection nodded enthusiastically, hand outstretched. I caught her eye, nodded agreement, and released a hand to reach for hers. Her hand was a little cooler than mine, her skin soft and unblemished, the way I'd imagined mine being in my make-believe world. Her fingers closed around mine, helping me up as I bunched my fine skirts, found my balance, and stepped through the looking-glass into what lay beyond. Thank you for listening. That was The Looking Glass by Katy Haye.